You have seen normal people spiral into mental illness, but what happens when a seemingly normal person uses mental illness as a weapon? It looks like a standard hoarding strategy, but this performance is really just a calculated hostile takeover of a man's entire life.
I'm the bad guy, okay? So what?
By the time the camera crews showed up to save a 3-story mansion in Ferguson, Missouri, the damage done to the man inside it was already permanent. A dying man on oxygen, trapped on a filthy downstairs couch in a home he used to call a home. He was trapped there because the staircases to the second and third floors were completely sealed shut, blocked floor to ceiling, utterly impassable due to 20 years of someone else's clutter. A&E called this one of the biggest, most extreme hoards they had ever filmed. They opened an entire season with it, but to understand how this house turned into a biohazard site, you have to go back more than 2 decades, to the day a retired fire chief named Dave lost his first wife. Dave was the kind of a man whose whole identity was built on competence. He was the person other people relied on in a crisis. He and his first wife, Bea, had turned that spotless mansion into the social hub of the neighborhood, the house everyone wanted to be in.
The home was really pretty, like you'd see in a magazine. We took good care of it.
The house was like the hangout house.
Then, Bea died by suicide. Dave was left a widower, grieving, unmoored, and exactly the kind of vulnerable that makes a person easy to move in on. Enter Carol. She was a piano teacher, a family friend, someone already inside the circle of trust, which is exactly what made it work.
My name is Carol, and all of my life I've done music and art. They've been my passions.
Carol was my children's music teacher.
That's when we met Carol, was when we were kids, so she was our piano teacher. Over time, Carol became a friend of the family.
Carol and Bea got to be good friends, and then it became the 3 of us.
Our lives intermixed, and he and his wife were my best friends.
They were all really close, like super close.
Within about 18 months of Bea's death, she wasn't just comforting Dave anymore. She was married to him. It happened fast enough that it raised eyebrows among people who knew them then, and it still raises them now. She moved into Bea's house and she started collecting books, art supplies, general clutter.
You're interested in a lot of things. You collect a lot of things.
Do you think you collect too much stuff?
Yeah, I've collected my share of stuff.
Yes.
I just like collecting, she'd say. A throwaway line that over the next 2 decades would literally bury a man alive. Because this wasn't a hobby, it was a hostile takeover, executed 1 box at a time, and the clutter was only the visible half of it. The real damage was happening on paper. Carol took out a second mortgage on a house Dave already owned outright, and then she refinanced it again.
Refinanced the house to her benefit, and she also took out a second mortgage, and then on top of that, numerous credit card debt. We estimate that Carol has spent between $400,000 and $500,000.
Family members would later allege, right to her face, on camera, that none of that money went back into the property. But the moment the mask truly slips is when she goes a step further and sells off a family heirloom that had belonged to Bea. It's the detail that finally breaks one of Dave's relatives, Mary, down on camera. Because to the family watching, it stopped looking like a money problem right there. It looked like erasure. She was replacing a woman's memory the exact same way she'd replaced her marriage. While the money was disappearing, so was the house, room by room. It got so bad that friends of the family who hadn't been inside in years came back to visit and didn't even recognize the place. The spotless house they remembered was now a total wreck they could barely walk through.
Yeah. As we walked through, I could only imagine what Bea would be saying, and it would tear Bea to pieces to see the house now as compared to when she had it.
Wait till you see these bedrooms. So like this was like where I had the TV and some chairs. And you can look in there and it's just like, holy crap.
Whoa, wow.
Dave, elderly and increasingly frail, was reduced to sleeping on that ground floor couch because he physically could not reach his own bedroom.
I couldn't have my dad live the way he was living. So that's when I told him that I'm gonna have to intervene, I'm gonna have to do something. And then that was the point where he moved in with me.
And here's the detail that separates this from every standard hoarding story. Carol didn't even live in that mansion. She had another residence entirely. She wasn't buried under the hoard alongside her husband. She was outside of it, guarding it. When the 31-ton cleanup by a full biohazard remediation crew finally started, she planted herself on the porch and began rebuilding a wall of her own belongings around her body in real time, faster than anyone could tear it down. She wasn't protecting a home she lived in or a life she shared with Dave day to day. She was protecting control of a house, a marriage, and a man she'd already left alone inside his own decline. Then came the intervention, which stripped the whole thing down to what it actually was. Organizer Dorothy Breininger and the show's psychologist walked in expecting to treat a severe psychological disorder. The psychologist even offered the kind of a hopeful line the show runs on.
Maybe this house can be what pulls the family back together.
I know my mom's in our corner, and I think she would be happy with what has transpired this week.
I think so too.
It is almost unbearable to hear now, knowing what came after. Carol was combative before the first box was even out of the door. She blew up at a cleaner the moment an old chair got thrown out, demanding to know who gave anyone the right to touch her things. She cursed out one of Dave's relatives, Missy, in front of the cameras, and at one point actually threatened her with violence.
This needs to go. There's mouse poop on stuff.
No. You don't tell me what I have
to help, and we're gonna get rid of it.
No, you're not getting rid of it. Don't you touch it, or I'll slap your face off.
When Missy flatly told her she'd been preying on this family since the day she arrived, Carol didn't deny it with any real conviction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You pretended to be a friend to me so that you could take over all this.
That's not true.
That is absolutely true.
That's interesting.
The exact reaction of someone caught, not someone wronged. And the more the family pushed back, the worse she got. Her resentment of their disapproval seemed to feed the exact behavior they were angry about. But the lowest moment in the entire 2-hour episode isn't a shouting match. Dave's own daughter described her father as having become like a prisoner in the house he used to be proud of.
That's not right to let another human being live like that, and shame on her for allowing that to happen. She is the spouse. She is supposed to be taking care of him.
And when the conversation turns to what 2 decades of this has actually done to him, a man in his final years, suffocating on oxygen because he can't reach his own bed, Carol's response isn't panic or grief or shame. It is flat, chilling indifference.
Whatever. At this point, I don't even care. And if I didn't wake up tomorrow, I'd be happy.
20 years of engineering somebody's slow collapse, and that is the only sentence she has left over for it.
He's been laying in that room dying for 10 years, getting worse and worse and worse. Do you care?
Yes.
Then why didn't you do anything about it? Do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer that you want, and I don't have an answer for any of those questions.
The show wrapped with the version of hope reality TV always reaches for. The ground floor cleared, the family standing in a space that finally looked livable again. Carol and Dave on camera moving back in together. This is the ending America saw. It is not where the story actually ends. Carol completely refused aftercare therapy. Whatever fragile repair the cameras captured didn't hold once the crew packed up and left. Dave's health kept failing, and he died a few months after filming wrapped. After the hopeful ending, not instead of it, which somehow makes it so much worse. He got his house back for a matter of months before it took him anyway. The children, who spent the entire episode calling Carol nothing warmer than stepmother, even the ones who'd married into the family and had no obligation to distance themselves that way, barely spoke to her. After Dave died, they were done. They did not stay in touch. The house she had bled dry through 2 mortgages and 2 decades of neglect had to be sold because the family simply couldn't afford the repairs her decision-making had made unavoidable. And Carol didn't outlast her control much longer either. By some accounts, around 9 months after Dave's death, she'd suffered a stroke and died, which means the entire structures she'd fought so hard to control, the marriage, the house, the money, the image of a devoted second wife, outlived both of them by less than 2 years combined. She spent 2 decades building walls out of other people's belongings to keep control of a house she barely lived in. In the end, the walls didn't protect her. They just made sure that when it was finally over, she was standing on the other side of them, alone.